Hello again folks, welcome back to RPMbassy. Thank you for watching the previous videos. If you have, we are counting down our top 20 records of all time. We're jumping on to number 5 now. I'm going to be starting off. And this is the album A Crow Left of the Murder by Incubus.
I know this one.
I
know this one.
Incubus are a rock band, is the easiest way to categorise them. They were at one point sort of funk and metal. Definitely a lot of like early Chili's influence, I think, from that sort of era when they first started. A bit of like the new metal influence as well, like Korn and Limp Bizkit. But this is one of their sort of more up-to-date albums. I say up-to-date. This was 2004. A lot of people, if you think Incubus, they're going to think of songs like Drive, which is probably, I would say, is probably still their biggest song even now. Genuinely, I think this is their best album. This is kind of where they, to me, came together properly as a group. Certainly, like the way the initial albums came out, like their very first album, their debut, or their full-length debut, Science, that really felt like a DJ kind of album. There was a lot of scratching, a lot of like weird noises and like crazy effects-oriented stuff. Their second album, Make Yourself, that very much felt like a vocalist's kind of album. Like that's Brandon Boyd, like really at the forefront of the album. Third album, very bass-oriented. That was a lot more like funk bass and like really, really soulful kind of R&B stuff as well in there. But this is almost all of them coming together and saying like, yeah, we're going to have an equal part on everything. And I think it's absolutely for the better, because this, I don't think they've topped this since. Like they've made great stuff since, absolutely, but this is like them on their top of the game. Like Megalomaniac, the intro track, like that, it's such a simple riff. It's basically a 4-chord song for all intents and purposes. Maybe you could call it a 5-chord song, but the main riff is super, super simple, but it's well hard-hitting, and that with the vocals and everything sounds unreal. This was the first album that Ben Kenny was the bassist for, so he used to play guitar in The Roots, and he does bring a little bit of that kind of like, I think him coming from like a sort of hip-hop kind of band does bring a little bit of that kind of rhythmic focus over, and the lines that he's doing, way different to their previous bassist, but really do serve this kind of music where it's a little bit heavier than their previous stuff. And yeah, you've got stuff like songs like Leech, that's got some super hard hitting but super simple riffs on there as well. And then in the middle, you've got things like Southern Girl, which it sounds acoustic. It's not acoustic. It's still electric guitar, but it's got a very, I want to say kind of like, it sounds like a villa.
Well, yeah,
like
sounds like a villa.
If you were sat in a villa, that's the kind of music that you'd be having playing, I think. And then tracks like A Crow Left of the Murder, the title track, and Pistola, like really kind of weird winding little guitar lines that are like coated in guitar effects and stuff like that. Yeah, it's.
I think
really,
next time
really
I go to
cool.
a villa, I go, excuse me, do you have a Incubus? What? Do you know what? It's something really weird. This is on number 5, right? But if you turn it over, we've got number 5 on there.
Oh yeah.
Check it out. It's meant to be. Also, your sticker is the same as my number 5 as well.
Yes, yeah.
God, a lot of these cross references, man. But I do know that album though. I love the art. We love the colours in that art. I remember seeing this for the first time, and it looks exactly like Rage Against the Machine.
Yes, yeah.
When I seen that for the first time, I didn't see this. I thought, oh, this is Rage Against the Machine, because it just looks like him.
Yeah, I mean, even like Mike Einziger there.
Yeah.
Like you could I think depending on like who was looking at it, they could potentially think that was Killer Roker.
Yeah.
But yeah, as I said, a band on top of their game at this point, and this is like solid all the way through. Every single track, you can tell that they've really, really worked to like piece together a super, super interesting album where everybody gets a say. So yeah, that's why it's my number 5.
Cool, nice. So my number 5 is a record to me that totally deserves to be in here, because obviously putting this list together, it's stuff that I've listened to, stuff that's influenced me. This album came out in 1983, so I was 13 years old. I was living in another country. I was living in Cyprus, so I didn't get to see all the hype. The album I've chose, there's loads of reasons why, and it's the Culture Club Colour by Numbers. As you can see, I do have this pop tinge to me, and this is completely 100% pop. And I think it's such a great album. I think it's totally underrated, even though it's won its platinum. It's, you know, at the year, I think it was the best-selling album of that particular year, because at the time, Culture Club had just come out with "Do You Rhythm Will Hurt Me" was a big #1 in like 27 countries or wherever it was. So he was big news, and obviously, Boy George, obviously looking like the way he was dressing caused a bit of controversy as well, and the tabloids loved it. Then between that single and this album, they released one single which is called "Time Clock of the Heart," which it doesn't appear on any of their albums. I think that got to #2. So again, it was massive. And then this album came out, and the first single to come off it, just before this album, was "Church of the Poison Mind," which again was a #2 hit. And then "Karma Chameleon" came out, which totally devastated like the pop charts. And like for someone like me and, you know, my friends, being Euromantics and stuff, like it was like, oh, this is the best thing ever. This album came out, and I think it's such an amazing album. And you're going to see there's another reason why I'm into this band, because there's 3 bands that I love, and all of them play a part in each other. And you'll see this is one of them. I'm going to explain why in a minute, to do with the drummer and the lead singer, Boy George. Both of these appeared in 2 other bands that I'm massively into as well. Yeah, so this is like, you know, platinum sales. I think it's 10 million copies worldwide at the moment. Couple of singles off this. Obviously, we know the Karma Chameleon. You know, it had "It's a Miracle." I think we got to #3. I think that was the last single from here. "Church of Poison Minds" and "Victims," which is a #2 again. So there's a couple of good singles from here. Also, when the label wanted to release Karma Chameleon, that the band were not happy. No, we do not want this out. And as it turned out to be the biggest selling record of all time. I mean, it still gets played now. But also, Mark probably is sick of this as well. I ended up working with Boy George, and he's singing on our album at the moment, doing vocals for our album at the moment. So if you told a 13-year-old me what I'd be doing now, I would have swore at you. But this is definitely an album that I listen to again and again and again and again. It's complete pop at its best. You know, there's no big guitar riffs in it. There's no kind of like frantic drumming. The vocals are great. It's just great pop music with great melodies. And the singer on this backing singer that you used, a girl called Helen Terry. So she did all the big kind of operatic kind of vocals on this. I think she appeared on the album after this, then that was it, done. But she's amazing on this album. If you haven't heard this album, check it out. Remember, if you're into pop music, this is it. Culture Club, Colour by Numbers.